So, please tell me something about yourself and your company, EP-Tender.
Yes, so my name is Baptiste Segard. I'm the founder of EP-Tender. And EP-Tender is a startup which aims to make electric vehicles inclusive. And the thing with electric vehicle is, if we keep going like this today, we are going towards the gentrification of new cars, because electric vehicles, I mean, you have conditions for people to agree switching from petrol cars to electric vehicles. And the conditions are, it has to be same price. It has to have more or less the same range on motorways, so the same capacity to travel long distances from time to time, although obviously most of the time we travel short distances. And they have to be clean, very obviously. And the last condition, maybe, which goes with traveling, is you have to be able to charge them in less than 5 minutes. And so the thing is very simple. In 1900, people wanted faster horses, running longer, feeding in 5 minutes, and that was it. And the solution was not to go for faster horses. The solution was to go for the Ford Model T. And today we have the same issue. People want to have cars which don't cost too much, have the range and so forth, and be clean. There is no solution to that. So we have to think laterally. We have to think out of the box, and we have to come with solutions which are technologically wise, feasible, and economically and environmentally sustainable. And this is what EP-Tender does.
Great. So how and when did you get motivated to enter into the EV sector?
Sorry?
How and when did you get motivated to get into the EV sector? You did your MBA and then you started the company EP-Tender. So what
Yes.
motivated you to start your company?
Of course. Well, at that time, I was working in the asset management industry in finance. And so it had nothing to do with automotive. I was a complete outsider. But we had 2 cars. We used to live in Geneva at the time. And I had a larger car, and a smaller car. And for many years, I've been following the development of electric vehicles. And you remember at the beginning, it was small, ugly cars, not comfortable. I mean, they were not real cars. And at that time, it was in 2011, you had Nissan and Renault coming with the Nissan Leaf and the Renault Zoe. I thought, these cars are good cars, and maybe I should consider as a second car. But then I realized that even with the second car, from time to time, we were making long distances. And I thought, well, there's no way ever you will have an affordable car capable of doing long distance with the battery in a convenient way. So you had to have solution for peak usage. So it's a question of marginal costs and marginal utility. So the marginal utility of making long distance is very small. I mean, a trip of 600, 700 kilometers, you do that maybe a few times in a year, not more. But at the same time, if you have a petrol car and you have a fuel tank with 7 liters good for 100 kilometers, to increase that range to 700, the marginal cost is very small. So the marginal utility is very small, but the marginal cost is even smaller. So it doesn't matter, and you can make such cars. Now with the battery electric vehicles, if you have 22 kilowatt hour or 20, which is good for 100 kilometers, to go from that to 140 to do 700 kilometers, the marginal cost per 100 kilometers that you add is significant. You're talking about 1,000 euros per 100 kilometers. And it increases the size of the car and etc. And so there is no economical solution. So it has to go with modularity. You have to split the problem into manageable sub-problems. So you have a solution for everyday, and you have a modular solution for peak usage. And because it's modular, because it's rented, because it's on demand, then the marginal cost is commensurate to your marginal utility. So that is how the idea came to my mind. And having been working in finance and economics, of course, the notion of marginal utility and marginal cost was natural. So first I came with the idea of a petrol generator, which you could put inside the car. The cost of that, it was the Chevrolet Volt in a way. And the cost of that is significant. And if you have a good electric range, then the engine will be used very rarely. So you still had the problem of the marginal cost. And so you could attach it to the bumper, put it on the roof, but it's not realistic, okay? Technically, it's unfeasible. So it had to be a trailer. But a trailer, then you have the issue of attaching the trailer, you have the issue of backing maneuvers with a trailer, which are difficult. And so I invented the steering system for backing the trailer without having to do counter maneuvers. And so I made this model first and then applied for a patent, and I started to talk to OEMs. And so this is how it came up. It was really, as a citizen, I had this problem. And I thought, well, maybe it's a nice problem to solve. Let's have a go and see if I can find a way of achieving that. And it came progressively like that. It was not completely random because I had some interest in electric vehicles and I'm an engineer, etc. But it's and then I started a complete new life and a complete new career because I went from being a senior executive in asset management to becoming a junior unexperienced engineer in automotive industry without any network connections or anything in the automotive industry. So I started like a 23-year-old graduate, fresh from the school, and saying I'm going to change the world, which is an interesting feeling. And very nice. I mean, it's to start a new life like this is interesting.
That's brilliant. And you founded your company right after your MBA, right?
Well, I didn't do an MBA. Okay. I was a graduate from the EPFL, the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Lausanne, but many years ago. And indeed, I was at the INSEAD. But I did the advanced management program there, so it was only 1 month. Okay. But surely doing that, first I loved doing this. It was quite interesting, and yes, it's about at that time that I started to think more seriously about this idea. But I had the idea before joining this advanced management program, and then I started to work more seriously on it in the autumn. So there's no direct link. It's
okay. Can you also tell about the characteristics of your product, that is the battery tender?
Sure. So it's a smart power bank trailer. So it's a trailer. It's a power bank, meaning that there is a battery on it. So we have abandoned the notion of the range extender, the petrol range extender, and we are now on 100% battery solution because technology allows for this now. And it gives us an even better business model because those batteries can serve to many other applications like grid services, so virtual power plant in the grid, but also zero emission generators, mobile charging, and so forth. We say it's smart because it's a trailer like a smartphone is a phone in a way. So you see, you take the phone from the 70s, okay, it's a phone, but it doesn't have many functionalities. And a smartphone does immensely more. And so we are a smart trailer in the sense that we are part of the Internet of Things. So it's completely connected to the network. We can do diagnostic and maintenance and of course booking and all that. It is self-pairing with the car, so it is capable of attaching to the car while the driver remains behind the wheel. So it means that you book the trailer or the tender in advance. It could be 3 weeks before you make the trip. It could be 5 minutes before you make the trip. When you reach the rental point, the tender will attach by moving by itself, will attach to the car within 2 minutes. And so you add 60 kilowatt hour or 300 kilometer motorway range to your car, just like that. And it is self-steering when backing. It is, in terms of dynamic road handling, so in terms of behavior, it's completely stable and it doesn't change the behavior of the car. So you don't see it, you don't feel it. So at the end of the day, it means that you have a car which maybe every day has 30 kilowatt hour or 40, which is an affordable car, which is perfect for 98% of your usage. And whenever you need it, you have a car with 100 kilowatt hour capacity. So that's good for 450, 500 kilometers on the motorway. And this thing will charge at 2 megawatts, because by attaching or swapping the 60 kilowatt hour power bank, that's equivalent to charging 60 kilowatt hour in 2 minutes. And this is the equivalent of a 2 megawatt charger. And as a result, your affordable car, which may be a used Nissan Leaf, which may be a €5,000 car, which you bought as a second-hand car, or brand new car at 20 or 30,000 euro, this car does better in terms of range and in terms of charging speed. So in terms of being able to travel with peace of mind, this car does better than the most expensive EV you could find on the market, which is quite stunning. And in terms of user experience, you have something which is completely seamless. So a smart power bank trailer. It's a trailer which has a weight of 500 kilo, which carries 60 kilowatt hour in 2024, 2025. Next year we'll do 52 kilowatt hour, but of course the capacity will increase, and which is robotized, and which you don't need to worry about when you drive it.
That's great. And if I'm not wrong, you're like still in your pilot testing stage.
So, sorry, I didn't catch that.
You're still in your pilot testing stage, right? Now
yes,
you're doing
yes.
pilot test. So
Yes.
What has the reaction of the customers been, like the customers who have come to you, and what's
Sure.
their feedback?
Yes, this is a very major question. And like for any disruptive innovation, people don't know what they need until they see it. And this is, of course, I'm quoting Steve Jobs there. So you have to bring it to the market. You have to show it to the people. And they have to see the experience, and they have to drive it before they trust it. And they have to see their friends and neighbors and other people and the press, of course, using it. So right now, we have two prototypes. And they're not even prototypes, they are mules, okay? So we took the old chassis, we put the battery in it. They are functional, and we've been able to do world records with them and so forth, but they are not yet at the industrialization level. Our aim today is to build a complete new platform with a number of enhancements, so to reach all the objectives that I've mentioned, including the homologation and the safety aspects, crashworthiness, and so forth, and to do field tests. So at this time, what we are doing is proof of concept. So we have been working with two major OEMs and various EV models to show it is possible, to show that connecting to this car without modifying these cars, apart from obviously bolting a tow bar on the car and connecting to the electric circuit of the car, but we made no modifications, major modifications to these cars, and what we do is completely reversible. So proof of concept at this time. Next is to develop, to do the R&D and to manufacture a 52 kilowatt hour version, which will have all the features and will be homologated. We do field tests then in 2023 with something like 40, 50 users, including individuals, fleets, construction companies, etc. So we will implement all the use cases, and we will do at that time detailed marketing research to evaluate in detail the user acceptance and to have the feedback from the people. Now, we already have, of course, a number of questionnaires and etc. So we have the feedback from a few thousand people, and the feedback is extremely good. And we have met thousands of people at auto shows and the car show in Geneva or the car show in Paris. And by talking to thousands of people, also we have a very good feedback. But I mean, it's only paper. It's only, feedback from people, but you have to get the people into the car. You have to get them to use EP Tender and experience it in the real life. So, and in any case, before we industrialize, we have to have an industrializable version, which is mature enough. So that is the first step. And the next step, of course, once we have finished the field tests and the results are good, both in terms of technical behavior, reliability, and user acceptance. And also we have to have cars which are ready to use EP tenders. So a very basic, obvious thing. The car has to have the homologation for towing, has to be certified for towing. And not so many electric vehicles right now have this. And second, if we want the mounting of the EP tender hitch and tow bar on the car to be easy, the car has to be prepped for that. So when designing the car, if there is a plug ready for EP tender on the battery, or if there is some harness which we don't have to go through the battery and through the chassis, and which is also already factory mounted, obviously it's a plus. And so this is what we are working on with one of the OEMs, which is making the evaluation of that. Mm-hmm. There's no decision and zero certainty that they will go for it, but at least it's part of their evaluation. So if they are satisfied, they will do it, hopefully. And then we could do a major success. But we have to demonstrate step by step quite naturally.
That's great. But according to your estimates, like how economical it is to just rent an EP tender for long distance than just carrying like an embedded battery?
Yes. Yes. So well, you will have an app on your phone. You will connect on a website, and you will say, okay, on that day, which might be today, or it might be again in a month's time, I intend to do that trip. And so you will book the pickup point, which is going to be a service station, which could be a commercial center, which could be the ride-sharing car park at the entrance of the highway. And the tender is there waiting for you at the rental point. You stop at a designated position. You have a small red light or bar or something like a toll gate. And the tender will come from the side and attach to the car. Then you drive. If you have a long trip, the system will have suggested that you swap the tender halfway. And so you'll stop at another service station, a highway service station. The tender will detach, another one will attach within 2 minutes. Then if you want to stop and have a coffee, of course, you're likely to do that. And when reaching near destination, when you exit the highway, the tender will detach from the car and you continue your road, and maybe it takes 15 minutes then for the tender to detach from the car. And again, you remain behind. So that means that maybe the first 50 kilometers from your home to the entrance of your motorway, you drive with your battery. And your car has 200 kilometer range. And so you could drive on your own 5 kilometers, 10, 20, 100, 150, doesn't matter. Then on the highway or on the long distance segment, you have the EP tender. And if you have time, and if you just want safety, you can charge your car on charging stations. Then you will pay very little for EP tender because you will not use EP tender as such. You will not take energy from the EP tender. So you'll just pay a flat fee, which is the one-day rental of EP tender. So it's your parachute. And you can stop, you can have lunch, you can visit things and charge your car. So it can be very cheap if you drive not too fast and take the time to charge. But you have safety and you have certainty that if a charger is out of order, if there is congestion and the charger is busy and you have to wait a long time, or if you miss the exit, or if there is a detour, or if there is headwind, or if it's colder than you expected, or if the topography and the road is steeper than you thought and you underestimated the amount of energy you needed, you don't worry. You have the EP tender. So you can use your battery from 100% to 0. You have the EP tender just in case. And if you miss 2 kilometers, the EP tender does that. And then if you have more time pressure, if the kids have school the next day, or if your family is expecting you for lunch or dinner and you don't want to arrive for the dessert, or you don't want to wake up at 3 in the morning, whereas you could wake up at 8 to make the trip and so forth, then you use EP tender. It will cost you a bit more. but similar to super fast charging, so a similar cost to Ionity, and that's it. So you pay as much as it pleases you, and you pay as much as the amount of time you have and the value of your time.
That's great. And you also have an international patent. So can you tell
Yes.
something about that?
Yes. So I mentioned the convenience, and if you have something which is 500 kilo, which you have to roll on the tarmac, and if it's slightly sloped or something, it's getting very heavy, and you have to attach this to the car. I mean, we lose 95% of the potential clients. And if you have a very short trailer, you have to drive this trailer backwards. It's like holding a pen on your finger and balancing. It's very difficult, and it's very unstable. So if you do this with a broom, which is very long, like a long trailer, it's difficult, but it's doable. Now, to do this with a pen is very difficult, especially if you close your eyes. Now, a trailer like EP Tender is very, very short, to be very compact, and you don't see it from the wheel because it's narrower, lower than the car. So having a steering system, self-steering system when backing, is of the essence. It's the cornerstone of the system. And so we came with a very simple, I believe clever solution for self-steering. So it's purely mechanical. It is you have self-calibration, so it's the zero and the precision is automatically managed. It's hydraulic, it's passive, and so we applied for a patent on that with various implementations, and the patent has been granted in Europe, in North America, US, Canada, South America, Brazil, Mexico, in India, in China, in Indonesia, etc., etc. So there are all the large car countries in the world which are covered with this patent where it has been granted. And so it's obviously, especially when you start like a startup like we are, and you come up with a good idea, the risk that someone says, aha, it's a good idea, you have put that much effort and that many millions, but I am the big guy, and I'm going to make a 10-fold, 100-fold investment as compared to yours, and you're washed. So having a patent on the cornerstone of a solution is very important. Of course, we will continue protecting our IP, but this one is again a major asset, and it's very, very simple. So if anyone has curiosity to have a look, it's easy to access.
Right. So now you're located in France, but like in future, you also wish to expand into other countries as well?
Yes, of course. So we'll start with France because we want something where it's in your neighborhood is obviously the easiest, and our industrial partners are French, so it's also although they are international companies, but the head office being in France, it's easier. But very soon after that, we'll go for Europe, and we hope to be able to do proof of concept and field tests in other continents. So typically, North America is a major target for us. Typically, China is a major target. India is a very major target. So it's a bit early because we are only at the first steps, for example, in the case of India. But affordability, you go in Southern Europe, you go into not the Bay Area, but if you take the Middle West in the US or Central California, affordability is of the essence. And obviously, if you go to China, Latin America, India, affordability is of the essence. And Fiat has a very good motto. It says, it's only green when it's green for all. So having electric vehicles, which go for the rich, the well of people in the rich countries, is a good start, but is useless. Not useless, but it's half cooked, and not even half cooked. It's only 5% of what we have to achieve. So what we have to achieve is to reach 90% or the 70% of the world population, which will never ever be able to afford a premium car. And these cars that those people can afford have to be clean, and they have to be sustainable tax-wise for the governments, because of course you could subsidize, but subsidizing is good only if you talk about a small part of the market. Now, if you go for the main street, you can't subsidize, you can't socialize the cars. There's no way. Public transport, yes, but individual cars, no way. So they have to be affordable. And then public transport and multimodal is all good, but I mean, 80% of transport is done by cars in a number of countries, and very light vehicles are requirements in very large metropolis. I don't know, say Paris or Mumbai or Los Angeles. So light transport and multimodal things and bicycles and whatever trolleys are good, but cars are requirements in so many cases. And otherwise you'd have to have everyone living in very large cities. And interestingly, with the COVID, not only we have to go for frugal solutions. So the exuberance of pretending we'll put a large battery in every car is a joke. On every aspect, economic and environmental. But also this frugality is accompanied by the fact that now you have more and more remote work. And with the telecommunications, was the fact that you have fiber, in the case of France, for example, it's striking. I know a place in a remote area of France where I thought we would never have the optical fiber. And to my amazement, it's now available. So it means that you could start doing many jobs, not by living in Paris, La Défense, which is the business area around Paris, but you could do the same from, I don't know, the countryside with a very pleasant mid-sized town at the periphery of this town, and you have a most pleasant life and a most interesting job.
Right. Even talking about, even during the period of COVID, the EV sector of France really boomed up. So it in June 2021, it had 18.8% share as compared to 9% in June 2020. So what has been the reason of this increase in market size in just 1 year?
So first, we are not the experts on that, but of course we do make assumptions in the EV market share going forward. So in Europe, there has been some major events where the European Commission has tightened the objectives in terms of CO2 emissions reductions by 2030. So now it's minus 55%. So when you apply this to cars, the previous objectives was minus 37.5% of CO2 emissions at fleet level for the OEM, otherwise they have to pay fines, which are heavy fines, significant. You can easily talk about billion for a large car maker. And now it's 55%. So that means that and also plug-in hybrids and plug-in hybrids are less in favor because people understand that the cost of having a plug-in hybrid, which is a monument of technology, a remarkable achievement, really a remarkable achievement. This is over expensive. And I mean, you don't have a really electric vehicle, and people tend not to charge the electric vehicle in such case, and they just take the tax breaks. So the market share of electric vehicles in 2030 is likely to be over 50%, at 50% at the minimum. And in 2025, I'd say that 25% is likely. And for us, again, if you want to have a 25% market share, it means that the electric vehicles can no longer be just premium cars, or no longer be just the second car of a higher middle class family. It has to go for the single car or the main car of families. And families in France having just one car has twice as many as the families having more than one car. Okay, so it's and so it's very significant. Okay, so the either the main or the single car, you have twice as many as the rank 2 cars in the market, and also maybe you have 1/6 of cars which are pure urban and never drive long distance. So, for example, in the countryside, you have 2-3 cars. You'll have one car which will never drive far. Or if you live in large cities, maybe some people will never drive long distances with their car. So 1/6 of the market. Another 6 of the market is the premium car, the large expensive cars costing more than 40,000 euros. In the middle, you have 66% of the market, which are these cars which do travel and which do cost less than 35,000 euros. This is our market, and this market is huge. And if you want to reach 25-30% EV market share, you have to address that market, and you have to provide people affordability and convenience.
So is the French government doing anything to support upcoming startups in the EV sector like yours, like EP Tender?
Yes, so there are schemes to support startups and innovation and R&D at the EU level and at the national level. Of course, this is highly regulated, so you can't do whatever you like. So there are calls for interest from candidates, and but it is very, very selective. So at the EU level, for example, there is a fantastic scheme called EIC Accelerator. In a recent call, there was over 4,000 candidates, and only 34 were selected, which was crazy. So you have a level of selection which is so intense with evaluation by experts, where essentially the margin of error, depending on which experts you pick up by chance, is significantly more than the threshold which makes you accepted or not. So it means that if you are among the best, it's a lottery. So this is tough for entrepreneurs. But this scheme and a number of other schemes are very good. And then in terms of supporting startup, I was very encouraged by all the support and the relative simplicity there was in setting up the company, organizing it. And then to seek funding, this is atrocious. This is remarkably difficult. VCs, they probably, a number of them, they have burned their fingers in early stage startups, especially in the automotive and especially in electric vehicles. And so they want to invest into things which are mature enough, where there is enough certainty and where the profitability is close enough. And they want to avoid the risk of the roadmap of the OEM, which is obviously uncertain. And so we, for example, very recently applied to a French funding scheme. We believe we have an extremely good proposition. We have a very, very strong consortium. We believe our project is enthusiastic and can bring immense benefit for the EV food chain in Europe and the industry in Europe, etc. And the value for money is great. This is what we think. Now we'll have to see what the committee evaluating our proposition sees, and what the other alternate solutions. Maybe some will be better than ours, maybe ours will be good. And this will fund the field test that I was discussing before. Or it will be the significant part of that funding. So yes, we are dependent of the support which could be given by the various entities. And yes, it is key that not only large companies can be supported in their innovation, and it is very key that not only I mean, the creativity and the good ideas could come from anywhere. And especially in businesses where there is a lot of industrial aspects like ours, it's not just technology. It's not just something which you can do on your own and do without much physical investment. Here we have some physical investment. And so there is the major, the chasm, which we have to go through from having a demonstrator to having something which is market ready. And wherever you have an industrial aspect and wherever it has to do with automotive, it's even more difficult. But automotive is 30% of the CO2 emissions in the world, transport. And being able to decarbonize transport is of the essence. And it's certainly green when it's green for all, so it has to go for all. And so a car which is good for all, and which has the range, etc., we have to go for moderated. So what is at stake is immense in what we are doing, but crossing the chasm is an immense task as well. And this is our everyday effort. I can tell you it's difficult. So we are looking for investors. And so if anyone, either VC or family offices or corporate VC finds our idea interesting and sees huge potential in that like we do, of course it's risky, but the risk benefit, we believe, is extremely favorable, especially from the point where we are today. Then very open, obviously, to discuss.
That's great. And are you looking forward for any partnerships with OEM manufacturers currently?
Yes. So we have this consortium I was talking about. Yeah. There is a very large OEM which is part of this consortium, and we have done a proof of concept on their vehicles as well. So that looks good. But we are in their innovation roadmap. We are not yet in their product roadmap. And they want the solution not to be exclusive. They want the solution to be open to any OEM, which is good for both. And so, yes, we are open to discussions with all OEMs, which have the ambition to provide generalist electric vehicles and light utility vehicles to the market. So you see, of course, Aston Martin is not the likely partner, but Volkswagen, Renault, Nissan, Toyota, Honda, Mitsubishi, Ford, GM, even Tesla with the future Tesla Model C or 2, I don't know what will be the name of that car. This car will have to have a moderate battery, and this car will have to have an affordable battery. Also, in India, Tata, or in China, I don't know, all the OEMs who address the mass market could see some benefit in what we do.
Great. So what's in the pipeline for EP tender, and when are you planning to commercialize your product?
Yes. So the steps are do a pre-series in 2023 of the 2022, sorry, of the 52 kilowatt hour version. Do the field tests and prove the commercial traction in 2023. We are already submerged by requests by potential users already. So we have really pending demand, and start commercializing in 2024 in France. With 120, 150 tenders and 20 rental points, so small scale. And then the year after, we go for other European countries, and then we go for North America and Asia and so forth. So once we pass these first steps, we believe it could be an avalanche, because people will.
Sky's the limit.
Yes, and we should have an exponential growth I believe. And the beauty is our business is extremely scalable. It is scalable because there will be one device which can be industrialized, and obviously there is no lack of capacity to industrialize that. It is scalable because the rental point is, you see, 2 parking space on a car park with some lighting to have 7 kilowatts AC power. Is good to put 6 tenders on rental. And then if we want to put 50 tenders, we need 200 square meters of tarmac. And that's it. And a great connection, but only a few hundred kilowatts. So as compared to stationary charging infrastructure, we request much less space, much less grid connection, because we do smart charging of the tenders. And our costs are variable costs. So the more we have clients, the more we have tenders, and the more we have rental points. And these rental points, we will rent tarmac, and doesn't have to be in city center. It just has to be at the periphery, near the entrance of the highway. So it can sit in places where the cost of the land is low, and we don't need roof, we don't need things. We will put solar panel shade on the rental point when we have this 200 square meter fully automated rental point. And the maintenance will delegate that to the local car dealer and the local workshops. And that is why we are very scalable.
That is great. And I wish you all the best for EP tender. It's already doing really well. I wish you all best of luck for your commercialization in 2023. And thank you so much for agreeing for this interview.
My pleasure. Thank you very much to you.
Thank you. It was great talking to you.